Whoa, whoa, whoa. I didn't mean to suggest that Mike was getting, well, you know. Welcome back to Random Edge Productions. I'm Tristan. Today we are looking at Mike Rowe, who is a narrator. He's a TV host. He did the show Dirty Jobs, and this is actually a video of probably 14 years ago when he was right in the midst of that series. He's explaining some of the dirtier jobs he's done. It's the title of this one that we're looking at is Learning from Dirty Jobs with Mike Rowe. It's on TED Talks. And if you want to see the thing in its entirety, I'd encourage you to go over there and take a look at that. Anywho, Mike Rowe is one of those fellows that you just are attracted to in the sense of his voice. His mind is just incredible, and his way of telling stories. He can weave a story together, and I'm going to do my best not to violate what he's laid down here, but I want to add some comment to it because I think it's very relevant to what we're going through in this day and age, and it will be helpful to tweak our mentality or the way we perceive or look at our work or our job or, well, actually life in general. So without further ado, oh, by the way, I'm going to start a little into this story, and he's going to be involved in doing some, what do you call that? Well, it's livestock or sheep herding, well, just husbandry, that's what it is. Well, if you do this thing that we're talking about, I guess there wouldn't be any husbandry left, would there? Anyway, let's take a look at it.
Job in question, herding sheep. Great. We go to Craig, and we check into a hotel, and I realize the next day that castration is going to be an absolute part of this work. So normally I never do any research at all. But this is a touchy subject, and I work for the Discovery Channel, and we want to portray accurately whatever it is we do, and we certainly want to do it with a lot of respect.
All right, so he is putting a disclaimer out there that normally in that show, Dirty Jobs, he would just dive in. He's an apprentice. He talks a little bit about that, and he'll do all these jobs that nobody would want to do, and he discovers so many things. I guess that's why they call it Discovery Channel. Needless to say, he is a little alarmed because this whole idea, especially with those that would give value to animals that may be a little bit higher on the ladder than even humans would be considered, which I don't necessarily agree with, he had to do his homework.
So I call the Humane Society and I say, look, I'm going to be castrating some lambs. Can you tell me the deal? And they're like, yeah, it's pretty straightforward. They use a band, basically a rubber band like this, only a little smaller. This one was actually around the playing cards I got yesterday, but it had a certain familiarity to it. And I said, well, what exactly is the process? And they said the band is applied to the tail tightly, and then another band is applied to the scrotum tightly. Blood flow is slowly retarded. A week later, the parts in question fall off. Great, got it. Okay, I call the SPCA to confirm this. They confirm it. I also call PETA, just for fun, and they don't like it, but they confirm it. Okay, that's basically how you do it. So the next day I go out and I'm given a horse, and we go get the lambs, and we take them to a pen that we built, and we go about the business of animal husbandry. Melanie is the wife of Albert. Albert's the shepherd in question. Melanie picks up the lamb, one hand on both legs on the right, likewise on the left. Lamb goes on the post, she opens it up.
So, as you can see, he is a rapid fire into this story, and like I say, he is good at the detail. So it's a very uncomfortable situation, even saying the word, which I'll let him say it. It makes you a little uncomfortable. especially if you're in my gender camp.
All right, great. Albert goes in. I follow Albert. The crew's around. I always watch the process done the first time before I try it. Being an apprentice, you do that. Mm-hmm. Albert reaches in his pocket to pull out, this black rubber band, but what comes out instead is a knife.
So this wasn't what he was expecting. And again, I applaud this effort to jump into different career trades and learn things. And I've often counseled people that work with me or for me, because I'm into construction and I do a lot of the things that would be considered hard manual labor. But when I start a new job, and this is what I tell others, your new employer doesn't know how much you don't know. And so one of the things you do is he'll have you do a task, and in your mind you're going, never done this one before. So instead of saying, I've never done this one before, I usually say, well, okay, yeah, I can certainly do that. Why don't you show me how you do it so that I know that I'm doing it in a way that you like? So they demonstrate it, and then I go, okay, yeah, my turn. Fake it till you make it. That's my philosophy.
And I'm like, that's not rubber at all, And he kind of flicked it open in a way that caught the sun that was just coming over the Rockies. It was very... It was impressive.
So he's on the edge of, well, it would be the knife, but also on the edge of being comfortable with this because something's happening, it's out of his control, and he doesn't know what's going on.
In the space of about 2 seconds, Albert had the knife between the cartilage of the tail right next to the butt of the lamb, and very quickly the tail was gone and in the bucket that I was holding.
So, yeah, they have... If you've ever been around sheep, you'll see a lot of them have tails that are cut off. Oh, they're short. Maybe you didn't know that sheep actually have long tails. Well, in the States more than other countries that I've been to, they tend to, well, I've not been to that many countries. Sheep herders will take, when they're little, they take the tail and dock it off so that it's not in the way and it doesn't get all icky. And my neighbor sheep, their tails are long. Well, how do you describe this? If I have a beard, and sometimes when I'm eating or I have stuff in my beard, and the same thing happens with sheep, but it's not like on their face, because that would be a goatee, and their sheep not a I just did that one on the spot. I liked it. Okay.
A second later, with a big thumb and a well-calloused forefinger, he had the scrotum firmly in his grasp, and he pulled it toward him like so, and he took the knife, and he put it on the tip. Now, you think you know what's coming, Michael. You don't. Okay. He snips it, throws the tip over his shoulder, and then grabs the scrotum and pushes it upward, and then his head dips down, obscuring my view. But what I hear is a slurping sound and a noise that sounds like Velcro being yanked off a sticky wall, and I'm not even kidding.
Just hang on. There is a redeeming point to this. It may be a little uncomfortable, but you'll make it through.
I do something now I've never, ever done on a dirty job shoot, ever. I say, time out, stop. You guys know the show, we use take one. We don't do take two. There is no writing, there's no scripting, there's no nonsense. We don't fool around, we don't rehearse. We shoot what we get. I said, stop. This is nuts. I mean, you know what I'm saying? This is crazy. We can't do this, and Albert's like, what? And I'm like, I don't know what just happened, but there are testicles in this bucket, and that's not how we do it. He said, well, that's how we do it. And I said, why would you do it this way?
Now, this is where the epiphany, the light bulb experience is going to go on for Mike. So just listen closely and be open to the possibility that in life, the way you go about doing whatever you're doing, it may be the best way, it may be the right way, but there's a good chance that the reason they do it a different way has more benefits than you're aware of. So.
And before I even let him explain, I said, I want to do it the right way with the rubber bands. And he says, like the Humane Society? And I said, yes, like the Humane Society. Let's do something that doesn't make the lambs squeal and bleed. We're on in 5 continents, dude. We're on twice a day on the Discovery. We can't do this. He says, okay.
So the rancher is going to go along with it and just show him. He knows it's going to be a teachable moment for Mike, but Mike is in that set in stone thing the right way to do it, because he's done his research or called around and found out that's the humane way to do it. Humane? Well, we'll see.
He goes to his box and he pulls out a bag of these little rubber bands. Melanie picks up another lamb, puts it on the post. Band goes on the tail, band goes on the scrotum. Lamb goes on the ground. Lamb takes 2 steps, falls down. Gets up, shakes a little, takes another couple steps, falls down. I'm like, this is not a good sign for this lamb at all. Gets up, walks to the corner. It's quivering, and it lies down, and it's in obvious distress. And I'm looking at the lamb, and I say, Albert, how long? Just, when's he get up? He's like, a day. I said, a day? How long does it take him to fall off? A week. Meanwhile, the lamb that he had just did his little procedure on, he's just prancing around, bleeding stopped, he's, nibbling on some grass, frolicking.
I'll take frolicking over a painful distress that little lamb had.
And I was just so blown away at how completely wrong I was in that second. And I was reminded how utterly wrong I am so much of the time.
Okay, this is probably the clarion cry in my life. How wrong I am most of the time. That's a hard thing to admit. Even when I think I'm so right, I'm wrong. And it's so easy to see how wrong other people do it, and you can correct them, and if you had to hang around me, you'd realize, you poor thing, because you do so many things wrong, and I will point them out, and I'll correct you, and I'll show you a much better way. So I think.
And I was especially reminded of what a ridiculously short straw I had that day, because now I had to do what Albert had just done, and there are like 100 of these lambs in the pen. And suddenly this whole thing's starting to feel like a German porno. And I'm like... Melanie picks up the lamb, puts it on the post, opens it up. Albert hands me the knife. I go in, tail comes off. I go in, I grab the scrotum, tip comes off. Albert instructs, push it way up there. I do. Push it further. I do. The testicles emerge. They look like thumbs coming right at you, right? And he says, bite them. Just bite them off. And I heard him. I heard all the words. Like, how did I get here? How did I get here?
Have you had those moments when you're going, how did I get here? My wife has those oftentimes when I start talking.
It's just one of those moments where the brain goes, off on its own, and suddenly I'm standing there in the Rockies, and all I can think of is the Aristotelian definition of a tragedy. Aristotle says a tragedy is that moment when the hero comes face to face with his true identity. And I'm like, this is a jacked up metaphor. I don't like what I'm thinking right now, and I can't get this thought out of my head, and I can't get that vision out of my sight. So I did what I had to do. I went in, and I took him like this, and I yanked my head back, and I'm standing there with 2 testicles on my chin.
I just paused because it's appropriate to pause. Oh, Tris, don't do too much commentary. Just let it pass. Mike Rowe, because he's willing to go head on into unknown places, I guess that's the literal thing, he gets life experiences that most of us will never have, let alone want to have, but that becomes part of the fiber, the fabric of who he is. And then he can share that, and he's been gifted in a way to be able to articulate, to pass it on, so others can get a sense, a taste of, well, not the same taste he had, but you know what I mean.
And now I can't shake the metaphor, okay? I'm still in poetics and Aristotle, and I'm thinking, out of nowhere, two terms come crashing into my head that I hadn't heard since my classics professor in college drilled them there, and they are anagnorisis and peripatia.
So there's two phrases there. I probably won't remember them. You may not either, but there's two philosophies that he's going to be dealing with.
Anagnorisis and peripatia. Anagnorisis is the Greek word for discovery. Literally, the translation, the transition from ignorance to knowledge is anagnorisis. It's what our network does. It's what Dirty Jobs is, and I'm up to my neck in anagnorises every single day. Great. The other word, peripatia, that's the moment in the great tragedies, you know, Euripides and Sophocles. That's the moment where Oedipus has his moment where he suddenly realizes that hot chick he's been sleeping with and having babies with is his mother, okay? That's peripety or peripatia. And this metaphor in my head, I got anagnorisis and peripatia on my chin.
Anagnorisis, it would be like A is against, and norisis, I guess it would be the root word of ignore. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just making it so I can remember it. Don't ignore, and petitus or something like that. In Greek, like the paraclete, that would be the Holy Spirit. Para means to come alongside. So this don't ignore what you're seeing and this idea that's coming alongside, and maybe it's like a fireworks. Maybe that's what that second one means. So he's got reality dangling on his chin.
I got to tell you, it's such a great device, though. When you start to look for peripatia, you find it. You find it everywhere. I mean, Bruce Willis in The Sixth Sense, right? He spends the whole movie trying to help the little kid who sees dead people, and then boom, oh, I'm dead. Peripatia. You know, it's crushing when the audience sees it the right way. Neo in The Matrix, you know, oh, I'm living in a computer program. That's weird. You know, these discoveries that lead to sudden realizations, you know, and I've been having them, over 200 dirty jobs. I have them all the time, but that one drilled something home in a way that I just wasn't prepared for.
Yeah, and now he gets to share it with us, and that's the beauty of life and your experience. Everyone has a story. You have a story. You have a story. You've been through so many different things, and if you were to sit down and share them with someone, you could pass those on. The other person can grab a hold of the golden nuggets. Oh my. Really, no pun intended for this. Please don't go there. Grab a hold of those golden truths of what you've experienced, so that perhaps they can avoid some of the pitfalls, or if they're in the midst of turmoil, you're able to share wisdom, knowledge. Knowledge is, you know, gaining information, but wisdom is how you apply that information, and that's what you get when you allow yourself to be stretched, to be put in situations that would not be what you'd sign up for.
And as I stood there, looking at the happy lamb that I had just defiled, but it looked okay. Looking at that poor other little thing that I'd done it the right way on, and I just was struck by if I'm wrong about that, and if I'm wrong so often in a literal way, what other peripatetic misconceptions might I be able to comment upon? Because look, I'm not a social anthropologist, but I have a friend who is, and I talked to him, and he says, hey, Mike, look, I mean, I don't know if your brain is interested in this sort of thing or not, but do you realize, I mean, you've shot in every state. You've worked in mining, you've worked in fishing, you've worked in steel, you've worked in every major industry. You've had your back shoulder to shoulder with these guys that our politicians are desperate to relate to every 4 years, right? Yeah. I can still see Hillary doing the shots awry, dribbling down her chin with the steel workers. I mean, these are the people that I work with every single day. And if you have something to say about their thoughts collectively, it might be time to think about it because, dude, 4 years.
Yeah.
So that's in my head. Testicles are on my chin. Thoughts are bouncing around. And after that shoot, Dirty Jobs really didn't change in terms of what the show is, but it changed for me personally.
When you have that epiphany, that peripatetus, I'm getting it right, I hope I'm getting it right, but that light bulb moment, that all of a sudden your philosophy shifts, you see things in a whole new way, it also brings along the energy of, or that excitement of understanding, and it is a big catalyst for taking the next move, of not being so afraid. I love to be a student and discover new things and ask the questions, well, why? Why is it done that way? Can't we do it a better way? Oh, well, is there a better way? Why do we do the things we do this way? It can be an exhilarating thing. It can be an irritant to those around that like the status quo is the way to go. Not me. I bump boundaries all the time. In fact, that's the name of this channel, Random Edge. I'm bumping the edge. And I wonder, well, can't we just move it out a little bit farther this way? Or what would happen if it's not so straight? What if go a different direction with it? It's good to have those challenging times when you can't stay where you are because you've seen something different. It's like thinking oatmeal is the top notch of food, and then you put some brown sugar and some raisins, for those who like raisins, and you have got it. That's the peak of culinary excellence. And then you smell the neighbor's barbecue, and he invites you over for that sizzling T-bone or ribeye, and your taste buds are ruined. You can't go back to the oatmeal thinking that is it. Now you've tasted something more, something better, something grander. And for those who are not into the carnivore type diet, barbecue your tofu and reach for the stars.
And now when I talk about the show, I no longer just tell the story you heard and 190 like it. I do, but I also start to talk about some of the other things I got wrong. Some of the other notions of work that I have just been assuming are sacrosanct, and they're not. People with dirty jobs are happier than you think. As a group, they're the happiest people I know. And I don't want to start whistling, look for the union label and all that happy worker crap. I'm just telling you that these are balanced people who do unthinkable work.
I gotta tell my wife that. I'm a balanced person. Really. Mike Rowe said it, and therefore it has to be. But I do agree with this. There's a satisfaction that you can't get anywhere else. The sweat equity that you put into whatever project, or the wrestling to make it happen, the satisfaction is so much better than if someone were to do it for you. The mindset changes. The appreciation level changes. If someone else is doing it for you, you can't really appreciate it until you have to walk a mile in their shoes. Or if it were like Jesus walk a mile in his sandals.
They've got this amazing sort of symmetry to their life. And
Okay.
I see it over and over and over again. So I started to wonder what would happen if we challenge some of these sacred cows. Follow your passion.
Follow your passion. I think he's going to be describing this in a way that's what people say, well, just follow your passion, follow your passion. But that's not necessarily... I'm gonna get in trouble with this one, because I say that often. I just gotta follow my passion. Maybe it's... Oh, okay, go ahead, Mike. You go ahead, Mike. Here, just talk.
We've been talking about it here, for the last 36 hours. Follow your passion. What could possibly be wrong with that? It's probably the worst advice I ever got. Follow your dreams and go broke, right? I mean, that's all I heard growing up. I didn't know what to do with my life, but I was told if you follow your passion, it's going to work out.
Follow your passion and it'll work out, but it doesn't. More often than not, the starving artist, it didn't work out the way... There's the rare occasion where things do work out, but often there's a lot of times that it doesn't work out the way you thought it was supposed to work out. And I think that's where we get a lot of anxiety and depression, is because people, they don't have a low self-esteem. They think they deserved more and it didn't work out and it's too hard. They're not willing to put the hard work in. Now, I think it's okay to follow your passions, but also recognize that it's not a passive arrangement. It's not a passive contract. There's work involved, and you need to have the mindset that whatever is worth having is worth working hard for. And that's when the reward is much more satisfying. So Mike is going to share a story. It's a little longer, so I condensed it down. A man who followed not his passion, but he had a vision of how to be successful in his particular business. I think he was a pig farmer, and if you were to watch the whole video, you'd hear that story too. So I just wanted to share the tail end of that.
He didn't follow his passion. He stepped back and he watched where everybody was going, and he went the other way. And I hear that story over and over. Matt Freund, a dairy farmer in New Canaan, Connecticut, who woke up one day and realized the crap from his cows was worth more than their milk if he could use it to make these biodegradable flower pots. Now he's selling them to Walmart, right? He didn't follow his passion. The guy's, come on. So I started to look at passion. I started to look at efficiency versus effectiveness, as Tim talked about earlier. That's a huge distinction.
Now, I wasn't part of the conference that he was sharing at. It was 14 years ago. I don't know what. But efficiency versus effectiveness, I don't know how the context of that is and how he parsed it out. But if I were to describe efficiency versus effectiveness, I think the priority would be to effectiveness. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, because like I say, I'm not privy to that information. But effectiveness, if it does what it's supposed to do, then you take that and you try to make it more efficient so it can then be more effective. That's my read on it. Of course, like I say, I don't know. Maybe he was talking about something else.
Safety. Safety first is... going back to OSHA and PETA and the Humane Society, what if OSHA got it wrong? This is heresy, what I'm about to say, but what if it's really safety third, right?
Yeah. Now, during COVID, I'm multitasking here for those who don't know. I value freedom over safety. People want to be safe. Safe is like the pinnacle of what you need. Everything needs to be safe. Well, no, I don't agree with that. I believe safety is not the primary concern, and I think we're going to see, as Mike shares here in his next clip, just what he's talking about. That way you don't have to listen to what I'm talking about. So we're going to...
No, really, what I mean to say is, I value my safety on these crazy jobs as much as the people that I'm working with. But the ones who really get it done, they're not out there talking about safety first. They know that other things come first. The business of doing the work comes first, the business of getting it done. And you know, I'll never forget, up in the Bering Sea, I was on a crab boat with the Deadliest Catch guys, which I also work on in the first season. We're about 100 miles off the coast of Russia, 50-foot seas, big waves, green water coming over the wheelhouse, right? Most hazardous environment I'd ever seen, and I was back with a guy lashing the pots down. So I'm 40 feet off the deck, which is like looking down at the top of your shoe, you know, and it's doing this in the ocean. Unspeakably dangerous. I scamper down, I go into the wheelhouse, and I say with some level of, you know, incredulity, Captain, OSHA? And he says, OSHA? Ocean. And he points out there, but in that moment, what he said next can't be repeated in the lower 48. It can't be repeated on any factory floor or any construction site. But he looked at me and he said, son, and he's my age, by the way, he calls me son. I love that. He says, son, I'm the captain of a crab boat. My responsibility is not to get you home alive. My responsibility is to get you home rich.
Wow. And for those who have done any kind of fishing, my brother did that, and I know quite a few who've done that Alaska fishing thing. Yeah, it's very lucrative if you put in the hard work. But that reminds me too that you know, our journey on this earth, we were created with a purpose, but the Lord's purpose with us wasn't that we would have a safe life. It wasn't that at all. In fact, life as a Christian, even it's ramping up that the persecution towards those who call on the name of Jesus are more and more a target of the enemy's minions. But the Lord's, what I get out of this and tie it together is that He didn't give us life so that it could be safe. He gave us life so that we would be rich in Him, eternal riches, where rust and moth don't destroy. And that's what valuing the freedom in Christ over the safety from any uncomfortable aspects of life. Nah, I wouldn't say that's the case.
I know the point of this conference is to celebrate the things that are near and dear to us, but I also know that clean and dirty aren't opposites. They're two sides of the same coin, just like innovation and imitation, like risk and responsibility, like peripetia and anagnorisis, like that poor little lamb who I hope isn't quivering anymore, and like my time that's gone. It's been great talking to you, and get back to work, would you?
Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I do appreciate when someone can speak from a place of wisdom and insight, and that's what I think Mike has done. Remember to like and subscribe and to hit the notification bell so you'll know when I launch my next video. Stay hydrated. Stay healthy. Do that by taking a nap.